We've had a few videos diving into the various knight factions in the lands between. Some served individual lords, some were banished and became mercenaries, others live in death and defend the mausoleums of long-dead demigods. One faction of knights stands out amongst the others for less than scrupulous reasons. The Knights of the Cuckoo are the defenders of Raya Lucaria Academy, but they hold no love for those they defend. These knights are little more than hired hands, contracted for a job, and given knighthood regardless of whether or not they are truly deserving of the title. Today we're going to take a look at the history of these knights and delve into their true purpose, not the defense of the Academy, but as the brute strength needed to challenge its leadership. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Elden Lore. Whether you're new to the channel or a longtime viewer, welcome. We do our best to dissect the smaller factions of the lands between, and bring to light the stories of individuals that may get passed over in deeper lore explanations. If you like our content, please consider subscribing. Whenever you subscribe and hit the bell, our channel gets a nice boost from YouTube's algorithm, which helps us grow this incredible community. We love discussing lore with everyone in the comments, so be sure to leave your thoughts and we can guarantee we'll actually read them. With that said, let's return to the treacherous Cuckoos. In order to understand the history of the Cuckoos, we first need to understand a little bit about the history of the Academy of Raya Lucaria. It's easy to assume that the Karyan royal family has always been the leadership of the Academy, but this is not true. The spell, Renala's Full Moon, tells us Queen Renala encountered this enchanting moon when she was young, and later it would bewitch the Academy. And the remembrance of the Full Moon Queen says, in her youth, Renala was a prominent champion who charmed the Academy with her lunar magic, becoming its master. She also led the Glintstone Knights and established the House of Karya as royalty. So not only was Renala made the master of the Academy due to her mastery of moon sorcery, but the Karyan royal family was not even royalty before she was put in charge. At some point there seems to have been a falling out between the Academy and Renala. While the sorcerers of the Academy wanted to continue studying the stars, Renala wanted to follow the guidance of the moon. The scholars tolerated this notion as she was their leader, but in secret, they planned for the moment when they could turn the tide and replace the Karyan royal family at the top of the totem pole. It was to this end we believe the Knights of the Cuckoo were founded. There is a form of parasitic cuckoo, which is a type of bird that lays its eggs in another bird's nest in order to have it hatched and made strong by the birds whose nest it invaded. It's no surprise that this is the symbol the Academy gave their knights. The Cuckoo Great Shield is a metal great shield painted with a peering cuckoo, carried by the enchanted knights sworn to the Academy. Boasting high magic damage negation, the shield is used to hunt down mages. Our enemy is none other than Karya itself. This shield confirms that the Cuckoos were always intended to be the enemies of the Karyan Knights, those who served the royal family. The sorcerers of the Academy started their own faction of muscle under the nose of Queen Renala, within her nest, with the intention of taking the Academy from her. However, it's likely this did not go unnoticed. When we visit Karya Manor, we can see a graveyard just outside, and when we read the inscription, it tells us, this is the resting place of the contemptible Cuckoos, lost in the siege of Karya. If we look at the Karyan Knight's shield, we can see it excels when facing magic or holy attacks, and asks, just who were these knights prepared to fight? While they certainly weren't the only intended target, we believe the Cuckoos were one of those battles the Karyans were ready for. The Raya Lucaria Soldier Ashes summon a trio of spirits consisting of 2 disposable foot soldiers and their superior, and tells us that the soldiers of Raya Lucaria were also known as the Cuckoos. They were given free rein by the Academy to wage war as they pleased, and they were infamous for their rapacious ways. These knights were given faux sorceries and told they could pillage whatever lands they saw fit in the name of Raya Lucaria Academy, an enticing offer to those who were likely nothing more than hired muscle before their ascent to knighthood. We believe this deal struck between the Academy and their knights was somewhat symbiotic in that the knights now had a title and the Academy now had protection and an army of their own. While it seems as though they never achieved their goal of putting an end to the royal family, they did see at least one victory on their front, trapping Bowles, the Karyan knight, inside the Cuckoo's Everjail. Bowles was no ordinary Karyan knight. He was a troll in the service of the royal family who could wield Karyan magics. We know the Cuckoos never rose to the same strength as a Karyan knight, so we have to assume they managed this feat with sheer numbers, as opposed to brute strength. The Cuckoo's surcoat and armor add even more context to who the Cuckoo Knights truly were behind their service to the Academy. The surcoat depicts twin cuckoos peering into a flourishing mass of glintstone. To a glintstone sorcerer, the body is a transient thing. The cuckoo alone knows its insignificance, yet watches over it all the same. This description shows us how the Cuckoo Knights had little care for their benefactors. They saw them as insignificant, but chose to watch over them due to the perks of being a knight, such as access to sorcery and free reign to do as they please. Meanwhile, the Cuckoo Knight armor tells us its left breast is emblazoned with a peering cuckoo, whence came their name. Perhaps the bird's shrewd gaze is an expression of their refusal to be mere servants of the Academy. So not only were these knights given free reign and access to magic, but it was still not enough. They wanted autonomy from the Academy, the ability to use their name and status without having to answer to their benefactors. We believe this bad blood started with the attack of Karya Manor. After Lord Radagon left Rennala, she was driven mad and became obsessed with the amber egg he left her. We know that at some point, the Academy locked her away within her study and took control for themselves. We also know that after the shattering, they sealed the gates of Raya Lucaria Academy, so that only those with glintstone keys could gain access. It's interesting to note that you cannot find a single Cuckoo Knight within the walls of the Academy. They're all encountered outside, either protecting the barrier or wandering on their own. Perhaps after sealing Rennala in her study and taking over the Academy, the sorcerers of Raya Lucaria ordered the Cuckoos on the Warpath to destroy the Karyan royal family once and for all. Upon their defeat, the Cuckoos would likely have a bone to pick with the sorcerers who sent them into this losing battle. If this attack was made just after the shattering, the timeline could align in such a way where the gates of the Academy were locked while the Cuckoos were away, which would explain their refusal to be servants of the Academy and put their own needs above their so-called duty. In the end, the Knights of the Cuckoo exist only in part to protect the Academy of Raya Lucaria. Perhaps they do feel some sense of duty that keeps them defending the immediate area around the school, but every piece of lore we can find attached to these enemies makes it clear that they care more for their own interest than they ever did about truly acting as knights on behalf of the Academy. The Cuckoos are a destructive force, masquerading as symbols of nobility, but their actions, as well as the symbology of their very armor and surcoats, betrays their truly nefarious nature. These knights do not serve a master, they humor one until the wind blows in a more favorable direction. As long as they're supplied a steady, easily digested source of simple magic they can use of their own accord, they are placated. However, the Academy must always watch their backs. Should their magical seals ever fall, it's possible the Cuckoo's greed may extend within the walls of Raya Lucaria itself. Thanks again for joining us as we dissect the various enemies throughout Elden Ring. What do you think of the Knights of the Cuckoo? Do you agree with our theory of their origins and purpose? Was the grave marker outside of Karya Manor created in reverence or as a warning? In your opinion, which Knight faction has the best Elden drip? We look forward to reading your thoughts in the comments. Like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you always get notified when we put out new content. We look forward to seeing you again for more Elden lore.